in this place, sometimes I'll leave you locked up for 2 weeks. Well, the prison officer slipped this letter under my door, and I saw the letter with the stamp on it, and I was so excited. It must have been like Christmas Day for me. I must have looked like some little boy opening up a Christmas present. And I devoured the letter. I opened it up so excited, and I was wondering which friend's written to me, or I was really hoping my mum and dad would have written to me, but it wasn't for them. I didn't recognize the writing of the name, so I continued reading. It said, "Dear Tony, my name's Michael Wright, and you don't know who I am, but I'm from Northern Ireland, and I'm living in Cyprus with my wife Elizabeth. And we're Christian missionaries, and our job is to tell people about God, because we believe we live in a world that's forgotten about God. We heard you're in the prison because you're all over the newspapers at the moment, and we just want you to know that we're not really concerned about what you've done to be in prison." Well, that really freaked me out somewhat, because really people, frankly, couldn't care less about you. All they really care about is what have you done, and how long you're serving, how many people did you kill, and how did you kill them. And please send us a visit order, and we'll come and see you. We hope to see you. God bless you, Michael. And that was it. But you see, it's very difficult to explain this to you, but in those days, even a small little thing would really upset me. And you see, what this guy had done on the letter is right next to his address, he went and drew this big smiley face. And you see, really, if you knew me in those days, you really wouldn't draw a smiley face on letters to me. And I thought to myself, what is this rubbish? Am I a joke? He's laughing at me, he's smiling at me, and I screwed up this letter, and I threw this letter in my bin, and I thought to myself, what is this Bible basher writing these letters to me with a smiley face on them? And one of the things I would do when I got upset was I'll smash my cellar. To be honest with you, I didn't even need a reason, but this was the perfect reason. And I was about to take this table, it wasn't a table, it was a box, I was about to smash it against my wall. And you know, I was so furious, and at that moment Andy, this English soldier, we were friends because we spoke the same language. But you know, he came in, he was in there for fraud. And he walked into my cell to see how I was doing, and he could see how furious I was. And he said to me, "Tony, what's happened?" I said to him, "This crazy Christian Bible basher had been writing letters to me with smiley faces. Why would he do that? You know, am I some sort of joke? What are idiots like that doing?" And he said to me, "Well, what's his name?" I said I couldn't give a blast what his name is. You look for yourself. His name's Michael Wright. He's Irish. I couldn't, frankly, care less. And I said, "Look for yourself." And the moment I mentioned the name, he said, "Tony, I know Michael Wright. He wrote to me also a couple of months ago, and, well, he visits me every week. He's a really nice guy. He doesn't mean you any harm at all. I mean, he does babble on about God sometimes a bit too much, but he's a good bloke." And immediately, friends, you know, I really felt sorry for him. Because I thought to myself, oh my goodness, he's one of these guys that's been in prison too long and got religious. I said, for goodness sake, don't be so pathetic, you idiot. He was so deluded, and I just tried to put him straight. I said, you think God and religion are going to get you out of prison, you flipping idiot? I said, it's going to be you. Just keep your head down and do your time and keep your nose clean and don't be so stupid. And he knew better than to argue with me, because if he argued, I would have just hit him. But you know what? He said to me, well, fine, suit yourself. You don't have to send him a visit order. But you know what? You're the one who's going to lose out, because in the visit room, they got a canteen and they serve Coca-Cola. And honestly, this was really a big deal. This was a really big deal, because we didn't even get clean water in this prison. I tell you, I can't lie to you here, the water tasted fine. But it was dirty, browny water, because the pipes were so old. And, you know, we used to live on bread, eggs, and tomatoes. Don't go thinking this was nice sliced bread and nice tomato. This is the worst food you can imagine. And this stuff called gologi. Can you imagine what that was? Gologi. Well, you know, I began to change my mind, thinking about this Coca-Cola. And so I thought to myself, well, I'll send him a visit order to get a Coca-Cola out of him, to use him. But if he tries to Bible bash me, I'm going to really bash him. So basically, I sent to him the visit order. And it was next Thursday, he came to see me. And there we were in the visit room. And I was waiting for Michael. And we just had one long table, and there was prisoners on one side, and visitors would come on the other. Behind the prisoners would be 3 or 4 guards with guns, making sure we're behaving ourselves. And then, I just noticed the prisoners were all the Greeks, you know, the local guys being visited by their loved ones, you know, of course, their wives and girlfriends and children and what have you. And here's me waiting for some Christian. I didn't even know who he was. And I was beginning to regret the whole thing altogether. And I thought to myself, I was going to just go back in the prisons. And then this guy walked into the visit room. And, you know, I figured to myself, well, it's got to be this one here. Because he was smiling like such a flipping idiot. And as he walked in, this guy, I was just looking at him. He was just really upsetting me. Because, he had this big sort of white Father Christmassy sort of white beard. And he was just smiling like that, and it was really upsetting me. This was not a place where you look like that. And he came up to me. I don't know what he was thinking. And he just came and shook my hand with two hands, and I was trying to work out what his agenda was. He then said to me how good it was to see me. He launched into this big thanking process about, thank you so much for sending me this visit order. It is so good to see you. I'm so grateful. And it was almost embarrassing, because really I should have been thanking him. But you know what? One of the first things he said is that the reason why I'm coming to see you is because I'm a Christian. And my life was changed a long time ago by Jesus Christ. And I'm not here to preach at you. I'm just here to be your mate. Well, whatever. Our visit lasted about 45 minutes, which is maybe the time you and I will have together tonight. And I really liked the visit, actually, because he got me 2 Coca-Colas that day. And as I was drinking the Coca-Cola, I tell you, I felt like a free man. I felt like a free man, because it was just really nice. And it was great because the visits were so different. In the prison, all day long, all you hear guys talking about, they boast about their crimes. They're always pumping weights and trying to be tougher than the next guy and, boasting about who they killed, who they raped, what drugs they did, how connected they are. All day long, you hear this rubbish all day long. Are you with me? I mean, I was one of those idiots. I was worse than probably all of them. And yet here's some guy, the only thing he could boast about was his God, his Jesus. Well, all I can say to you is that yes, he was friendly, yes, he was nice, yes, he got me my Coca-Cola, that was great, lovely. But in reflection, after all these years, what I can say to you is this. What made those visits so beautiful was that Michael never once judged me. Not once did Michael ever get on some sort of moral high horse and judge me in any way at all. Not once did he say to me, Tony, why did you go and do those crimes? Not once did he try to say to me, try to find out what's wrong with you, Tony. Not once did he try to ever make me feel like he was something better than me. And he was. He was some man of the church, you know what I mean? And here's me, some dirty scumbag criminal in prison with people's blood on my hands. He was much better than I could ever be. And yet the only thing he would ever say to me is the only difference between you and me is that you've been caught. He said the Bible says that the whole world is a prisoner to sin. Not one person on this planet is perfect. Well, he came to visit me every single week by week, by month. And I meet hundreds of thousands of Christians around the world every year. So many of them, they go to their church and they sing beautiful songs and they do their aerobics, worship and all that sort of stuff, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's fantastic, it's lovely. You hear the Bible verses and it's beautiful, it's really lovely. I mean, nothing bad there, it's great. But you know what, I don't meet many Christians that put their money where their mouth is in terms of their faith. And go into prisons like that to see scumbags like me. And you see, that was what was making the impact on my life. And I hope you don't misunderstand me, but I began to love him. I began to love him like a dad. Because my own friends and family didn't want to come to see me, and, well, who, for goodness sake, could blame them for that? And yet this complete stranger did because of his Jesus. And I began to really love him. And if he couldn't come to make it to a visit, he'd always send somebody else from his little church, and they always had an equally dorky smile over their face. But they were equally as lovely. They were equally as peaceful and loving and kind and genuine, and they never once tried to preach to me, because if they did, it would have been really bad for their health. They just came along to love me and be a real, genuine friend, I can tell you. They visited me week, by month, and 6 months had passed by this point. It got to the 3rd of May 1990, after 6 months of these visits, where basically I was having a really bad day. A friend of mine, a Palestinian terrorist, he was attacked in a revenge attack and his face was totally cut up to pieces. His face was beyond repair. And I was not thinking straight, I was like a bull seeing red. And on that day, Michael was coming to see me. And I was in the visit room, but this time I had a filthy attitude about me, and it was one of those sort of attitudes where I decided I was going to hurt him. This was one of those things where I would never change my mind. Michael walked into the visit room and he soon dropped his smile when he saw how upset I looked. And he walked up to me and he just